I never realized how much I say good grief on a daily basis until I started this project. A couple of weeks before Christmas, my dad was going to cut down this very small, very dead tree in their front yard. The poor thing had been destroyed by free-range cattle that regularly wander into the neighborhood, destroy everybody's property, and basically crap all over the place. It's so much fun. So much fun. My dad joked that it was too bad he didn't have a Charlie Brown to stand next to the tree for Christmas. So I started doing a quick search on Amazon and a few other places, and we weren't finding anything that they really liked. So we decided to make our own Charlie Brown and our own Snoopy. I'm obviously sharing this project a little late, but we are so happy with how it turned out, so I wanted to share it with you anyway. As you'll see, this turned into a family project. Mom and Dad did jump in to help. We did have to run to Home Depot to grab this massive piece of plywood. Outside of that, I pretty much had everything else on hand. Some of you may have caught the reels and shorts that I shared here on Instagram and on Facebook of the progress on this project. This is something I plan to do more of going forward. So if that's something that interests you, definitely follow me on those platforms and be sure to subscribe here. One of the funniest things about posting sneak peek reels is the instant feedback. You get comments faster than you can blink. A bunch of people gave me grief about using regular Sharpies, like, dude, there are bigger markers made for this. Yeah, I know they exist, but I already had these on hand and I started drawing around 7 or 8 at night. There is no way I was driving 25 minutes into town just for fancy markers. So I was determined to make it work with what I had. The outline started as a normal thin line, but then I thought, you know what, Charlie Brown needs that bold cartoon look. So I decided to thicken it up, going outward instead of inward. That way, I added a little extra width to the whole drawing instead of eating into the details that I'd already worked so hard on. But the question I got the most was, how many Sharpies did you kill by doing this? The answer, just 3. Once the drawing was finished, it was time to set Charlie free from that big sheet of plywood. I handed the project over to Dad, who fired up his jigsaw and got to work. This is another reason I went with that thick, bold outline. It was super easy to see, especially on such a bright, sunny day. I figured a nice fat outline would make it way harder to accidentally veer off course. Dad took his time, carefully following the outer edge of the outline, navigating around all the curves and small details. He did an awesome job. It was so satisfying to watch Charlie slowly emerge as Dad cut away the excess plywood. Bit by bit, our giant Charlie Brown was finally coming to life. For the painting setup, we grabbed a mix of folk art matte acrylic and deco art Americana acrylic paint. We also grabbed a variety of brush sizes and spread plastic sheeting over the counter to contain the mess that we knew was coming. Mom jumped in to help with a huge chunk of the painting, which was awesome. We started out with the plan of using small brushes to carefully cut in around the Sharpie outlines, then to switch to bigger brushes to fill in the large areas quickly. But in the end, we mostly stuck with the smaller brushes. It just felt easier than constantly switching back and forth between brush sizes. I was surprised how thirsty the plywood was. The wood soaked up the paint like crazy, so we ended up needing several coats of each color to get solid coverage, especially the red, which took forever. I had thought about priming the whole thing with gesso first. I didn't have enough on hand, so we just dove straight in. Lesson learned, next time I am not skipping that step. Most of Charlie Brown's colors were pretty straightforward. Black for the pants, red for the coat, brown for the hat and shoes. The one tricky spot was his skin tone. That flesh-colored paint was way too yellow straight out of the bottle. So Mom stepped in and mixed a little red to warm it up to a nice peachy shade. She was perfect for the job. Mom used to work as a silk screener for many years where color matching and mixing inks was a big part of what she did every day. Once all the main colors were down and dry, I went back in with black paint to sharpen up the original Sharpie outlines. and to paint the sides and edges of the entire cutout. That final black edge really made everything pop and gave Charlie a clean, finished look. Once the paint was fully dry, it was time to protect all that hard work. We gave Charlie 2 solid coats of Rust-Oleum clear gloss sealant to make him weather resistant and give him a nice shiny finish. One thing I didn't show, I grabbed a smaller brush and made sure to really work that sealant into all the edges, especially the bottom one that was going to be in contact with the ground. And just like that, our giant Charlie Brown cutout was officially done. But of course, a Charlie Brown isn't complete without his best buddy. So it was time to tackle Snoopy. We tackled Snoopy the same way we did Charlie Brown. I had to take an image, I had to scale it up, I had to draw it onto plywood, we cut it out, we sanded it, we painted in all the details, and then we coated it with a couple coats of sealant. So while you're watching our giant Snoopy come together, I thought it'd be fun to share a few behind the scenes facts about a Charlie Brown Christmas that you may or may not know. A Charlie Brown Christmas aired for the first time on December 9th, 1965, and was produced on a tight schedule and budget. At the time, CBS executives and even creator Charles Schulz weren't happy with the finished product. Due to the tight schedule and tight budget of $76,000, just under $782,000 in today's money, along with the fact they broke several animation norms, some described the special as slow and felt it could potentially be a disaster. However, to everyone's surprise, it drew nearly half of all TV viewers that night and became an instant classic. I was surprised to learn Coca-Cola initially sponsored the special and it had advertisements for their product in the actual cartoon. One of those advertisements were placed in the skating scene but was later removed. It was also amusing to learn, just as shiny aluminum Christmas trees were peaking in popularity in the early to mid 1960s, celebrated as a modern mess-free alternative, the special portrayed them as symbols of hollow commercialism, contrasting them with Charlie Brown's simple, sparse, real tree. This depiction reportedly helped trigger the aluminum tree's rapid decline, with production largely ending by the late 1960s. Now, how about Snoopy's house? I'd like you to stop and mentally visualize it for a second. What color is Snoopy's house in A Charlie Brown Christmas? For those screaming red, I hate to burst your bubble, but the house was actually blue. During the 1950s and the early 1960s, Charles Schulz's original Peanuts comic strips were published in black and white. So when animators adapted the characters for the first time for a color special, A Charlie Brown Christmas, they had to choose colors for the characters and all the different elements. Snoopy's doghouse hadn't been consistently colorized in any widely seen media before this, so the team opted for blue. Following this initial special, Snoopy's house became the classic red version most of us remember today. As I said earlier, the special broke several animation norms for the time. They did this by using real children's voices, using no laugh track, by including a direct Bible passage, and by featuring a jazz soundtrack. Many of the child voice actors couldn't read yet, so lines were fed to them word by word, leading to the natural, sometimes choppy delivery. Even the songs Christmas Time is Here and Hark the Herald Angels Sing were performed by a children's choir from St. Paul's Episcopal Church in California. In the 1960s, skipping a laugh track was seen as unusual and risky for an animated TV comedy, as shows like The Flintstones and The Jetsons relied on canned laughter to guide viewers while punching up the jokes. Adding a laugh track was proposed, but Schulz firmly refused, arguing that viewers should experience the special at their own speed, in their own way, without being prompted when to laugh. He viewed laugh tracks as fake and wanted the gentle humor and its touches of melancholy to resonate naturally. In 1965, having Linus recite a direct passage from the Bible was seen as highly unusual and risky because mainstream network television almost always avoided explicit religious content. Fewer than 9% of Christmas TV episodes in the 1960s included direct references to religion, favoring secular themes like Santa Claus, gifts, and a generic spirit of Christmas to appeal broadly and sidestep potential controversy. Schultz was urged several times by producer Lee Mendelsohn and director Bill Melendez to cut the scene, warning it was too religious for prime time, while CBS executives admitted the Bible thing scares us. However, Schultz insisted on keeping it, famously asking, "If we don't do it, who will?" In the end, the special's massive success proved Schultz right. As for the music, using a jazz soundtrack in a child's animated special was considered weird, unconventional, and even risky at the time for several reasons. In the mid-1960s, music for children's animated TV shows and holiday specials was typically bright and upbeat. By contrast, jazz was seen as sophisticated adult music, often associated with nightclubs, beatnik culture, or more serious listening. It was rarely used for family-friendly cartoons, which favored safe, whimsical scores. CBS executives worried the soundtrack by Vince Guaraldi felt too subdued and dark. They feared it wouldn't appeal to kids or capture holiday cheer in the expected way. They reportedly hated it, predicting the special would fail partly because of the weird music. In the end, this low-budget Christmas special that was thrown together in about 6 months won an Emmy for Outstanding Children's Program in 1966 and a Peabody Award. And its Grammy Hall of Fame inducted soundtrack remains one of the best-selling jazz holiday albums ever. Turning 60 in 2025, A Charlie Brown Christmas has aired annually for decades, delighting multiple generations of viewers. Not too bad for a special that everyone predicted would be a flop. Once I was finished with Snoopy, I handed Snoopy and Charlie Brown over to my dad, who dug through a pile of scrap wood to try to figure out how to make them stand. Once he found some pieces that he felt would work, he attached the pieces to the backs of the characters using a combination of liquid nail and screws. What you can't see is each stand extends about a foot into the ground like stakes to keep them upright. Snoopy has one and Charlie Brown has two for extra stability. I still plan to paint the backs of both the characters black and coat them with 2 coats of sealant before packing them away for next year. We just ran out of time this year. I honestly just needed to get them out in the yard before the holiday was over. For the final touches, I found an inflatable red Christmas ornament on Amazon that resembled the iconic bulb from the cartoon. It felt like a perfect match. Dad also put out one of his work lights to use as a spotlight so the characters would be nicely illuminated and visible at night. Now for the final results. What do you think? Did we do Charlie Brown and Snoopy justice? The hardest part about this project for me was drawing at such a huge scale. I am not used to working this big. The reference photo that I was working from Charlie Brown was 4 inches tall, and in the end he stood 5 feet tall. He's huge. The whole project took about a week and a half, which really isn't too bad for 2 large characters. The only thing that I wish we had done was to take a light blue blanket to wrap around the base of the tree, like Linus did with his own blanket where he wrapped it around the tree to help it stand a little taller. That's definitely getting added next year. With that, I would like to wish you a safe, healthy, happy new year. I'll be back soon in 2026 with some exciting updates and some big plans for the channel. Until then, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like, leave a comment, share it with a friend, and subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next. See you soon.